Geoff Johns and Eduardo Rizzo return to Flashpoint as Thomas Wayne awakens in a world he thought erased, leading to the Batman to begin to question whether his recent adventures were all just a dream or is someone messing with the timeline once more. Geoff Johns returns to his Flashpoint Doomsday Clock storylines with a new series which builds on Thomas Wayne's recent exploits and throws him back into the world he thought erased at the end of Flashpoint. I'm actually rather impressed with how well Johns incorporated all of Thomas's previous adventures like Infinite Frontier, Justice League Incarnate, and his appearances in Tom King's Batman and built off them, since I was sure he was just going to hit the hard reset. But instead we get a pretty awesome story of a more experienced, less angry Thomas thrust back into his violent black and white world. I really appreciate the moments where he just tries to remember that Bruce was saved and he became a better Batman than him and wants to use that to be a better hero himself. Of course, it's got its dark moments since he's been returned to a world he fought so hard to fix and it's not fixed, so he gets really frustrated easily that nothing he did actually mattered. Johns really captures that frustration really well, culminating in Thomas actually killing a man since he knows that none of this matters anymore, leaving him at sort of a wit's end, and just goes to show you just how bad the Flashpoint universe can be on a person and how it can just wear you down with just how futile it all is. I'm really intrigued to see how this plays in the upcoming Dark Crisis event and what the fantastic tease at the end with Rip Hunter and the Time Masters means for the timeline going ahead. Eduardo Rizzo, the original Flashpoint Batman artist, joins the book with his unique shadow-heavy style, which is absolutely fitting for a dark return to Flashpoint, a world just bathed in darkness and death and is just really grim and gritty. He gave the issue a great style that reminds me a lot of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, with his heavier set Batman and gruff but emotive character faces. Flashpoint Beyond Issue 0 was a great return to some of Johns' recent story arcs, wonderfully tying it together with Thomas Wayne's recent exploits and building off the development other writers like Joshua Williamson gave the character, all culminating in an interesting and fun romp through an alternate timeline. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10. Flashpoint Beyond Issue 0 finds Batman looking over the destroyed remains of Rip Hunter's office, finding his notes on the multiverse and omniverse as he tells someone that they have found it. A voice says that if they found it, someone else will have as well, and if the maniacs around there catch them, they are all screwed. Batman knows that they won't be found since the Time Masters have their own problems to deal with and they will never know they were there. Mime and Marionette catch up to Batman, with Marionette telling Batman that they don't trust him and he shouldn't trust them. Mime points his invisible gun at Batman, but the hero snatches it from his hand as he reveals that they have arrived at the vault. Entering the giant vault, Batman asks which one of Hunter's gadgets is the one they need. Marionette asks if their deal is still happening and Batman agrees to it, shown Janie Slater's watch. Batman takes the watch and snow globe it was tied to, telling Mime and Marionette that they are done there and they have a little girl they need to go home to. Marionette says her name is Anita after Mime's mother, but realizes Batman isn't going to tell them what he wants the snow globe and watch for. She says that they don't really care, but they know how dangerous it is as Batman heads to Hunter's whiteboard, rubbing out Hunter's claim that Thomas Wayne will die. On another Earth, Thomas Wayne is woken by Oswald, who knows that drinking 57-year-old alcohol is way more fun than facing Judge Dent's allegations against him, but he's still being charged with murder and he should sober up. Judge Dent arrives knowing that Thomas is drunk yet again as he asks why the man hasn't gone to see his wife at Arkham, like he asks, since she won't talk to anyone but Wayne about the Joker, Thomas's late wife Martha. Dent knows that the Batman might have saved his daughter from the lunatic, but the trauma Martha put her through was terrible. Thomas, however, knows that none of this is right since Martha never became Joker since Barry Allen changed it all back. Dent becomes more and more frustrated with Thomas, knowing that he won't fail his wife like Wayne failed his. Thomas takes off, closing the elevator door on Dent's rantings as he tells himself that Barry changed everything back, remembering how he was ripped out of time by Reverse Flash, being turned into a living paradox that tried to force Bruce to quit, but he was cruel and wrong about that. Learning the world needed his son and he made Batman into something good, unlike what he did to the mantle. He also remembers Darkseid and how he was shot with the being's Omega beams, meaning that he should be dead and Bruce should be alive, but he is buried along with Martha. As he looks over his family's graves, Oswald contacts him about Dent getting a warrant, but Thomas demands he be left alone. Thomas decides he's going to break into Star Labs since he's learned enough about the universe beyond his, and he knows this could be an alternate world mimicking his own. However, he knows the vibrational frequencies he's registered let him know that Darkseid didn't send him to a parallel Earth, but he's back on his actual own reality. He feels the touch of his wife's cold hand on his shoulder as the Joker tells him that she thought he saved their son, but it was all a dream, laughing in the darkness. Thomas finds no one behind him but the ghostly memory of his dead wife. The news meanwhile discusses the various catastrophes happening around the world as Wesley Dodds talks about having dreams about these events, but the news anchor says that he doesn't care about his premonitions, since millions have already died in the war between the Amazonians and the Atlanteans, something that he didn't see coming, and it's only a matter of time before Aquaman brings his armies to American soil. The anchor is tired of hearing about his dreams since they are living in a nightmare, and if the masks aren't taken down by the government, they are doomed, especially since the heroes that they could trust all disappeared while hunting Per Degerton and his Nazis in South America, with Sandman managing to be the only one who escaped, but he had no memory of what happened. Dodds thinks that there are others, but the anchor knows that the Element Woman is just as delusional as Dodds is, and the Superman has been accused of much more than when he first appeared. The anchor says that Sergeant Steele revealed on his show the night before that a so-called terrorist attack on Metropolis 30 years ago was actually the Superman's rocket ship crashing to Earth, with it being speculated that he is the forerunner of an alien invasion, so now they must prepare for an impending Kryptonian invasion. Thomas meanwhile scours the phone book, finding Barry Allen, when suddenly one of his clean chalkboards is written on, leaving him with a message that tells him that everything matters. He demands to know who wrote it, thinking it to be Eobard Thawne, who has come back for revenge for him stabbing him with a sword. Thomas knows that he'll just do it again, since here on his world, nothing matters. He smashes the chalkboard up, getting Barry's address before retrieving Joe Chill's gun, knowing that he will change the world and save Bruce and will kill whoever did this. In Central City, Barry Allen rushes through a crowd, telling his mother on the phone that he's trying to meet someone and he had a date arranged for the night before, but he was late. He tells his mother about the woman and how she lives in his apartment building, and he knows it was rude to be late, but he can't control if something bad happens, since if a crime goes down, everyone calls on him to help solve it. Barry heads to the newest crime scene of the Clockwork Killer, finding the victim called himself Abracadabra, and like the other victims, his heart, liver and intestines are gone and replaced with clockwork gears. Barry is told to just properly identify the victim and determine time and cause of death, as later, Barry heads home, finding himself sharing an elevator with Fiona, the woman he was meant to go on a date with. He tries to apologize for ditching her, but the woman says she ended up going out with the bartender, rubbing it in Barry's face. She knows Barry seems like a nice enough guy and wants to give him some constructive criticism, knowing he goes home every other day to have dinner with his family, and he works a job that doesn't appreciate him, and he comes home to an empty place, and this isn't the life he's meant to be living. Barry goes into his apartment, knowing that he really blew it this time, as Thomas Wayne announces his arrival, knowing that it's not his fault this time. Barry knows who Thomas is, but Wayne thinks the man remembers him from their past adventures. Barry knows all about Thomas Wayne, and who wouldn't know all about one of the most famous men in the world, but Thomas tries to explain that he is the Batman, and Barry calls himself the Flash, trying to explain the events of Flashpoint to the hero and how Barry is the fastest man alive and he could break the time barrier. He explains that the reverberations from Barry's actions when he tried to alter history rippled back and forth through time, changing his and many other heroes' histories, his son Bruce as well, and while they restored it to the way it was, something has altered it again and he needs Barry's help to save his son and the world. Barry takes everything in, knowing that he needs to leave to see his mother, being that Thomas said that she is dead. Thomas, however, stabs him with a syringe, knocking Barry out, as later, he ties Barry to a chair on the rooftop of Wayne Casino. Barry realizes that he's in an electric chair, as Thomas knows that he's proving himself right, setting up all the chemicals to recreate the Flash's accident. Barry tries to tell Thomas to stop this, but Wayne knows that Barry has a wife and children and a family and a legacy, and he even taught him that there was a better way to be Batman since his son has become the Batman he never could be. He knows that it's different when you lose a child and it can break you, and it did break him forever. He activates the chair's antenna, telling Barry that he'll make sure none of the rage and guilt he had mattered, since the Flash will save everyone. Suddenly, a harpoon is shot through the chemicals, spilling them everywhere as lightning hits the chair, killing Barry Allen instantly. Oswald soon contacts Thomas, telling him that Dent is coming for him now for the murder of Joe Chill, as he hears an explosion below. Batman surveys the explosion, finding Harvey Dent's car has been hit and Dent has been killed as his son calls for help. Thomas plucks the boy from the burning car, shielding him from a secondary explosion as the child points out who shot his father. Batman spots a man taking off across a rooftop with a harpoon gun, knowing that it was the same harpoon that shot the chemicals around Barry. He wants to know why that man wanted Barry dead, catching up to him and kicking him down, demanding he tell him, but the man says that he was actually trying to hit Batman, since Aquaman said that he was going to use Barry Allen to change things and he had to kill him. Batman wants to know how Aquaman could have known this, but the being says the vigilante can do whatever he wants to him, since it's no match to what the Atlanteans will do to him once they found out he failed their king. He reveals that he loves murdering people and watching them die, thinking that he and Batman can be allies since they are the same, because everyone knows Batman is a killer like him. Batman beats him, telling him to shut up as he tells himself not to kill the man and to be like Bruce and use what he has learned. The man asks if he has ever watched a child die, making Thomas relive the night his son was gunned down in front of him. This causes him to snap, violently killing the being by smashing his head against the wall over and over, knowing this won't matter and none of it will. Later on, Thomas meets with Commissioner Gigante at the bombing site, wondering why Dent's son was with him. The commissioner says that Dent took the boy wherever he goes after what happened with his daughter and wife. Thomas wonders what will happen with the boy now, learning that Child Services is coming to pick him up as a Flash races by Thomas, calling out his name in the dark road. Later on at Arkham, Commissioner Gigante visits Gilda Dent, apologizing for the death of her husband, but Gilda is only interested in if Thomas is there since he is the only one she will talk with. The commissioner leaves as Roger Hayden screams that this is all wrong and she isn't commissioner and Bruce Wayne is meant to be Batman, demanding to know where Bruce is. On Earth Zero, Bruce looks over his father's letter to him as a voice tells him that this won't end well for his father, and what Bruce is doing could threaten the Divine Continuum itself. Bruce knows, considering the number of times he saved the Divine Continuum, it owes him, but the voice knows it will come back to haunt him. Batman tells the kid that if he could stop him, he would have, but the voice, belonging to Corky Baxter, knows that maybe he doesn't need to worry about him alone, but Rip Hunter will be mad when he finds out Batman broke into his lab, since he's finally going to get the Time Masters back together and they're going to change Batman's history. The boy knows that he warned Bruce since he's just opened a can of worms, and they are going to make him eat them.